Alright everyone, welcome back to Call of Duty, and this again is not a gameplay video. Gameplay videos are going to be coming. There's Warzone videos coming and multiplayer videos coming. But right now, this is not a gameplay video. I'm going to be going through attachments for weapons. I realized that in the last loadouts and perks video, I didn't actually go over the attachments fully. I kind of just went over what I had on my guns, but not exactly why I was using them or what attachments are best in general in the game. So I decided to do an attachments video. That's what this is. So if you are kind of wondering what attachments you want to run or what's best for your style of play, this video is for you, because I'm going to talk about all the attachments and depending on your style of play, what's best to run it. So let's talk about snipers first, since it is my first class. This is these are a set of attachments that depend on your style of play. I like to quick scope. I like to run around, be fast with my sniper. So my attachments are focused on that. So I don't have any muzzle on it. If you want to run a mono suppressor, that's more for if you're like Warzone or Ground War. I don't feel like in multiplayer you really need it, specifically because 99% of maps you will one shot, like this sniper that I have right now, which is the quick ADSing one with the shorter barrel. On 99% of maps, as long as you hit chest or above, it's gonna be a one shot and you're gonna kill them. You're not gonna get a hit marker. This thing barely ever gets hit markers. I don't even remember the last hit marker I got with it. It really is a one shot. It's like a heavy sniper. It's a heavy hitting sniper, and you really don't need to add much to it to make it heavy hitting, like at all. Like none of this is adding damage. If anything, it reduces it. But if you look at the bottom left hand corner, you see the damage is really high. That's the way the sniper works. That's why, in my opinion, this is the best sniper in the game and my favorite sniper, and it's the one that I use. But if you're playing it for Warzone, or you want to be one of those guys who snipes like in a building with a couple claymores, and you just ADS out a window the whole time, or whatever, and ADS speed isn't that important to you, then you can throw on the mono suppressor, which increases the range. You don't really need to worry about recoil. Commentator's not really necessary. The tactical suppressor, this already gives you suppression and it increases your range. This does the same thing. These are the same, except one increases range and one doesn't, so there's no reason I'm running the tactical suppressor and not the monolithic. The muzzle brake, it's again for recoil. You don't really need that with the sniper, especially not a semi-auto sniper. If you're running like a Dragunov or something, maybe, but I wouldn't recommend running a Dragunov. If you're gonna run a sniper, the AX50 or the HDR are the way to go, in my opinion. Dragunov's at the bottom. The breacher device for melee damage, like you're not gonna be meleeing people with a sniper. Let's be real. Sniper's meant for range, medium to long to super long range. You're not gonna be meleeing people. Lightweight suppressor, this is just if you want a little bit more mobility, but it reduces your damage range, and I wouldn't want to run this pretty much ever. Flash guard, again, muzzle flash concealment. You're using a sniper, so they're gonna see your glint. So the muzzle flash concealment is unnecessary. Like, there's no point. You're not hiding anything. That little squeaking is my dog playing with his toy, by the way, and I apologize for that. In terms of barrel, I run the 17-inch factory barrel. This increases the ADS speed and the movement speed. Again, it reduces the bullet velocity a little bit, so it does reduce range. But again, on 99% of maps of multiplayer, which is mostly what I play, and mostly when I snipe. In Warzone, I really don't snipe. I don't run snipers on Warzone. I have a car class, and sometimes if I'm feeling it, I'll run that for a game or two, but for the most part, I don't really snipe in Warzone. It's not really meant for that. You get a lot of damage, but you're not really going to get kills sniping that much. At least consistently, you can get a game or two where you pop off, but consistently, realistically, that's not what you really want to run. But this is the one I run because of ADS speed. Again, if you're going to be in Warzone and you want to increase range on your sniper and bullet velocity, this is the one you run, the 32-inch factory barrel. Again, it's going to slow down your ADS speed tremendously and make it super slow ADSing. But if you're going to play in Warzone, you're really not trying to quickscope. You're sitting on a mountain or in a building, and you're ADSing at somebody that's really far away. This is the one you're going to run. The Single Arms Pro is like a smaller version of that. It also increases damage range and bullet velocity. But this one increases the accuracy a little bit more. And reduces the mobility a little bit less, so I would recommend running that one instead of the Single Arms Pro. But you can run either one. Though I would recommend 32-inch factory barrel. I run the tac laser, again, fast ADS speed. If you don't care about ADS speed, then you don't have to run the tac laser. Obviously, this is one of the few guns I run a tac laser on. I don't like tac lasers, the green ones, because they're too easily visible. And this class actually has two of them, but the other one's because it's a hipfire class. It's a Kimbo class. But I run the tac laser for ADS speed. Optic, I don't run optic. I really like the iron sights or the scope that comes with the X50. It's a really clean scope, And most of these, you can run like a thermal in Warzone. Maybe that would be a thing you could do. I would probably recommend if you're gonna snipe in Warzone to run a thermal for like long range fights. But like realistically, if you're playing this in multiplayer and you can use the scope, if you're good with the iron, with like the main scope that comes with the gun, and it's not something that you struggle with, I recommend using it because it lets you put other attachments that make the gun that much better. I use a single arms assassin stock, which is again for ADS speed. If you're going to run a quick scope sniper, this is the one you want to run. If you don't, then you can use one of these. Aiming stability for a sniper, yes, it helps because it's not necessarily the recoil when you shoot, it's more the sway of the weapon. So if you want to have it sway a little bit less, you can run that if you're going to be sitting in buildings staring at really long ranges. This could be the one you run instead of the single arms assassin. This was for movement speed, more for strafing. Warzone, you're not really going to do that much, realistically. Maybe every once in a while you have a fight where you're trying to snipe, you're like fighting another sniper in the open for some reason, or like you just have a tree as cover or something and you're swaying back and forth. But for the most part, I feel like the single arms marksman or the single arms assassin, the two you're going to run, depending what style of play you are. Because remember, most of these attachments depend on the style of play. So that's why I'm going through all of them, because realistically, most of them are all usable. There's some that really aren't, that you wouldn't have a real reason to use, but most of them are. Just depends on your style of play. I run focus because like a lot of times when you're quick scoping, you're flying, you're not sitting in a building, you get hit, you want to be able to keep your target on the person. I don't know how many, this has saved my life so many times. I used to not run it, and then I started getting frustrated that every time I would get touched by a bullet, my gun would go to the sky and I couldn't shoot, and it would screw me over. So I threw on focus, and it changed that completely. I get so many kills while I'm getting shot by somebody, it's ridiculous, and that's why I run focus. I feel like it's kind of a necessary one to run if you're going to be quick scoping, which is how I like to play. If you're going to be shooting long distance, FMJ, okay, let's just start from the bottom. Fragile disabling, you're not going to really run this. It slows down movement and briefly disables tactical sprint when shooting legs. You're not going to really use this in a sniper because you don't want to just hit somebody and hurt them. You want them to get dead after one shot, right? So that's not something you're really going to run. Fully loaded. In Warzone, maybe you want to run this, but I don't really feel like you need to. You have plenty of ammo in it, to be real, and you can find plenty of ammo in Warzone. And in multiplayer, you don't need to run fully loaded pretty much ever on any class, because realistically, you're not going to run out of ammo. Yeah, sometimes you do if you're like on a really high streak, sometimes you run out of ammo. But in that situation, I would recommend just picking up whoever you just killed's weapon and using that one if you run out of ammo. FMJ doesn't actually increase damage. This is the great myth of Call of Duty that's been going for years. That little myth that, oh, you put FMJ in, your gun does more damage. It doesn't. It only increases wall pen if you're trying to shoot something through a wall, or damage to vehicles and equipments. So like the like UAV or VTOL or something, that'll do more damage, but you're not going to shoot that with a sniper. So realistically, FMJ, not a really thing you're going to run. Fragile wounding, same thing with disabling. You want to hit and eliminate one shot. You don't want to have to like put this on so when you hit them they slow down, you can hit them again. This isn't a fast firing sniper. This is not a rapid fire sniper, a semi-auto. So you want that first shot to be the kill shot, realistically. But money, I mean, I don't really need to run this, and if you have them maxed out, you don't need to run this. If you're running, if you're trying to max it out and like level it up, maybe you run this, but I don't know if you pick this over the other perks you can use like focus. And I would say the second one you would run would probably be sleight of hand to reload a lot quicker. If you're quick scoping, that could be really helpful. I personally like focus better, but sleight of hand is not bad as well. Presence of mind, extended hold breath. If you're gonna be sitting, like if you're playing Warzone or something, and you sit in a house or you sit on top of a mountain, and you're just ADS up there for like a prone, just sniping, and you're kind of doing that, I could see how you could run presence of mind so you could hold your breath longer and get the shot better. But realistically, if you're playing multiplayer, this isn't one you're going to run, because you're more likely than not, it's going to take away the ability to have sleight of hand or focus on, and I will recommend having one of those two over that one every time, especially in multiplayer, because you don't really need to hold your breath that long to get a shot. If you need to hold your breath that long to get a shot off, you're probably going to die before you get your shot off anyway. So it's better just to get better at being able to put the shot on the guy quick, and then having focus or sleight of hand on. Recon, this one I see how you could probably run this in Warzone, but I don't feel like you need to, especially if you run a thermal site. You don't need to see their name. You can see them running in the distance. So again, I wouldn't really recommend this over focus or sleight of hand, or even presence of mind, to be completely honest with you. Just because with a sniper, you really don't need to see their names for further distance. You already have a scope that will let you see further distance, and you're going to see them running. And if you run a thermal, you're going to see them even easier. So you really don't need that. You don't need fast melee, in my opinion. You're not going to really be meleeing people with a sniper. More often than not, you're going to run your sniper secondary will be a melee or will be a pistol, which then you will use to melee. I don't feel like you're really going to need to run this because you're not really going to be meleeing people often enough to warrant running that class. Again, my dog's walking around. I apologize for that. Heavy hitter. Again, this is for melee. It's a sniper. Again, so I'm not going to repeat what I just said, but don't need to run this either. The grip. This is going to be a staple on pretty much every single gun that you run, for the most part, depending on your style of play, but you're going to want to run this even if your style of play is not to fly around and quick ADS. Stipple grip tape is better than rubberized and granulated every single time. You're either going to run the stipple grip tape or you're not going to run a grip at all, because it helps ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, and it reduces your aiming, it reduces your recoil control only a little bit. The rubberized increases your recoil control, but you don't really want to run this because it's just going to slow down your mobility and your ADS speed and stuff. So you really don't want to run that. This one's for aiming stability and walking steadiness, but again, it's reducing your ADS speed. So you really don't want to run this that much because then you're going to be really slow pulling the gun up to be able to shoot. Stipple grip is a staple that goes on a lot of weapons. Ferro's ammunition, 7.9. You don't really need to add more ammo. Again, it's a heavy hitting sniper. You get hits with the first shot. Yeah, it only has 5 rounds in its clip, but that's 5 kills. Right? If you're at least decently accurate, it's 5 kills. And it has plenty of ammo, reserve ammo. You really don't need to be increasing the mag size, which just is going to reduce your ADS speed. So it's not really necessary. Underbarrel, the bipod. I don't really feel like this is necessary. Maybe in Warzone if you like to lay prone in like a mountain or something and snipe, you can run this, but bipod for me, not really a point to running it. That's why I run the attachments that I do, because I like quick scoping. Pistol attachments. This again is actually, pistols don't really depend on your style of play. It just depends what you want out of your pistol. Do you want speed or do you want punch and speed? I have both mobility and also fire rate and punch. I want a little damage to it, so I run the mono suppressor, which increases the damage range. These are going to be pretty much the same as the snipers. Like, it depends what you want. Recoil for pistols, recoils can be kind of nasty, but realistically, you're not going to really run recoil control stuff like a compensator or a muzzle brake, and the other suppressors aren't really worth it because they just give you the suppression without any other pros. So pretty much you're going to run the mono suppressor if that's what you want. This increases damage range, and bullet velocity and recoil control. Obviously, it reduces the ADS speed, but again, for me, I'm not using a pistol that ADSs. I'm using a Kimbo, so they don't ADS, so I don't have to worry about ADS speed. So this class, even though it has decent mobility, I don't have to worry about ADS speed at all. So I have the super on because the damage range increases, and it makes it easier to control recoil and all that. So it's especially with the Kimbos, you're gonna need to control recoil. This one is the same thing pretty much, but it reduces accuracy because it doesn't have the recoil control, but it doesn't reduce movement speed. But I feel like this one's still better just for the purpose that it increases the recoil, and also increases accuracy and damage. And then this one is the opposite. It reduces your range and your accuracy and your recoil control, but it increases ADS speed. With the pistol, you really don't need to increase ADS speed. They're already pretty fast ADSing. So ADS speed is really not a necessary thing you have to worry about. And I run it akimbo, so I have to worry about it even less. The 5 megawatt laser, I run this because it's hip fire. It's a hip fire accuracy, sprint to fire. So you're gonna see this laser on my 2 hip fire classes as well. But other than hip fire, I don't like running the lasers because you get seen easily. So a lot of times, if you like when I'm playing, I have to, if I'm like standing in a corner waiting for someone to run through a door because I hear them, I have to aim the guns at like the wall and then wait for them to run through and then flick to them. So you can't really be like waiting for them on the door. So that's why I run the 5 megawatt laser. If you want to just run a laser on your pistol, I would recommend the 1 megawatt because you don't get seen as easily and it increases your hip fire accuracy. I don't really feel like you need to run attack laser on a pistol. It's unnecessary. And same thing with optics. I don't recommend running any optics on your pistols. For me, they're just, it's harder to shoot them with an optic on them. So try to get used to the iron sights because it's going to be way better in the long run. I run the light rate trigger to increase the fire rate. When you're running a Kimbo, that helps a lot. Increasing the fire rate. This helps aiming stability and walking steadiness. This helps fire rate and aiming stability, but the fire rate is lower than the lightweight. That's why I run the lightweight. I put maximum fire rate. That's why if you look at the class, the fire rate is super high because I'm running akimbos. Ammunition, this is for increased magazine size. You could run this depending on the pistol. Some of them have kind of low magazine capacity. Although I would recommend not running it because it does slow down your ADS speed. If you're not going to run it akimbo, then you probably do want to run it. You probably want to run a 21 round or 32 round mag, depending how much ADS speed you want to lose, or how much of the other attachments add to the ADS speed, because you're more likely not going to need to take a few, especially if you're playing core, you're going to need to take a few shots before you get somebody down with a pistol, unless you're hitting headshots and you're a god. So unless you're running akimbo, that might be one of the ones where you take off like the laser and put on that, or you take off the akimbo and put on the 21 and 32 round magazines. Rear grip, if you're gonna run one, stipple grip. I'm gonna tell you that every single time. These two, I don't feel like you're really ever gonna use them. You're gonna run the stipple grip every time if you're ever gonna run a perk on any weapon that is in the grip category. In terms of perks, like actual perks, I run akimbo. Sleight of hand's a good one to use as well. Obviously your ADS speed, and reload speed, and when you're shooting with a pistol and you run out of ammo, which happens often, and you're gonna need to reload quickly, most likely than not. So it's best to have sleight of hand. If possible, if you're not running akimbos, I'd probably go with sleight of hand. Or if you're going to run anything else on it, I would say one of the melee ones, like fast melee or heavy hitter, because it's not like the crippling power and the fragile wounding. They're more useful on a pistol than on a sniper, but I still wouldn't recommend running either one of those. Same with recon. You don't need to see somebody at a super long range with a pistol. Like, more likely than not, if you do see them at that range, you're not going to get the kill anyway with the pistol, so there's no reason in running it. More money, again, unless you're leveling it up, I wouldn't recommend running more money because you're sacrificing something else off the class, and I don't feel like that's really necessary. FMJ, again, this is for wall pen. I wouldn't recommend running it on a pistol, unless, the likelihood that you're going to have to shoot somebody through a wall with a pistol and you won't be able to get the kill, right? Because pistols can still shoot through walls. This doesn't make them be able to shoot through walls. It just increases the damage they do through the wall. So you can still shoot through the wall. It just increases the damage you do through the wall. But I don't feel like with pistols, first of all, I don't feel like you should be trying to shoot people through walls with pistols to begin with, unless it's a deagle or a revolver, or maybe the Renetti. But I don't feel like there's enough. I don't feel like that situation comes up enough that it's worth putting FMJ on, and you're not going to be shooting down VTOLs or anything like that, or UAVs or anything like that with the pistol, so there's no point in running this perk or at all. Like, I don't feel like it's necessary to run any pistol at all. So if I would recommend it, I would say either akimbo or sleight of hand, or even maybe fast melee if you melee a lot with your pistol. Those would be the three that I would say you would probably want to run on a pistol. Alright, let's move quickly. SMGs. SMGs for me are I like speed. I like going. I like being able to do what I need to do quickly, and not have to worry about getting beat in a close range gunfight. So for me, I run the monolithic suppressor, the integral one. These are increased ADS speed, but it reduces your range. So I wouldn't recommend running these because it's an SMG, and it's a very strong SMG, and the MP5 can win a lot of mid-range gunfights, especially with the mono suppressor. So I wouldn't recommend taking that away and making it basically a shotgun where you have to be right in front of someone's face to get a kill consistently. So I'd run the mono suppressor. You could also run the... I'm gonna take this off really quick. You can also run the other mono suppressor. They're basically the same thing, but I just like... I like the other suppressor better. I don't know if they're really that big a difference between them, but I don't know. I just like the way the other one feels better, and I like the way it looks on the gun better, so I run that one. In terms of the rest of these, again, the lightweight suppressor, it's not really ever worth running it because it reduces your range. There's no point in that. Breacher device, melee damage. You're really not going to be meleeing people with your SMG either, to be real. That's more of a panic move. If you like miss all your shots and all of a sudden he's still in your face. That's what you would do, but I really don't think you need that. Recoil control, it doesn't have that much recoil. You don't need to put recoil a thing on this, on any SMG really. None of them have that bad recoil that you need a compensator for it. Flash card, you really don't need a muzzle flash. Nobody's looking for muzzle flashes. They're looking for glint, or they're looking for you to shoot so they can see you on a map. No one's looking for a muzzle flash, or they're looking for the bullets coming out of wherever you're shooting from. So I really don't feel like that's really that necessary. Again, recoil doesn't have that much recoil. You don't need it. Tactical suppressor, again, it reduces your ADS speed and aim walking steadiness. When you want a SMG, you want ADS speed. That's kind of a thing you need on an SMG. You don't want to run that. That's kind of unnecessary. So that's why I run the integral suppressor. I run the 1 megawatt laser. The 1 megawatt laser for hipfire accuracy, because sometimes you need a hipfire when you're in the face of somebody, and you don't have time. You don't want to ADS and waste time ADSing. You can hipfire this, and it's pretty accurate, especially with the grip. And I'll show you in a second the foregrip in the front. That's why I run this, and I don't like the green lasers that you can see. That's why most of my guns don't have them. Almost all of them don't have them. The only ones that have them are the three hipfire weapons that I have, the Akimbos and the two SMGs that are hipfire. And if you're running hipfire class, then yes, you do run the 5 megawatt laser, like on the Vector and the MP7 that I have. Hipfire, I run the 5 megawatt. I'll show that really quickly in a second, but that's why I run that. Other than that, I don't like running these at all. I have it on my sniper as well, but that's for ADS speed more than anything. And it's the tack laser because it's for ADS speed. Optic, I would recommend that you get good at using whatever iron sights you can. I don't really like putting scopes on anything unless you're playing Warzone. If you're playing multiplayer, I don't recommend putting any optics on pretty much any weapon. If you can get good with the iron sight, get good with the iron sight. My personal favorite sight to use, though, the only one I pretty much will in multiplayer, is the mini reflex, because it's small, it doesn't cover up much of the screen, it's easy to see, it's clean. But I like the iron sights a lot of the MP5, and I've always liked the iron sights of the MP5. There's a video on the channel when I played the beta, and I was using the MP5 and I was using the iron sight because I really like the iron sight. So that's what I would recommend. Is just trying to get good with iron sights, because that makes you better just inherently by being able to put attachments on weapons without having to waste one attachment on a sight. You can put other attachments that make the gun better overall. So I have the collapsible stock, which increases the ADS speed and the movement speed. There's also the close quarter stock, which helps with ADS speed, but this one increases it even more. And then there's this one helps with aiming stability. It doesn't have that much recoil. You don't need it. This reduces the recoil control, but it still doesn't have recoil. Like, it's an SMG. You're gonna be shooting at pretty much close range. You don't have to worry about recoil. It doesn't really have recoil. And then this is for aim walking movement speed, more for strafing speed. This one will help you way better with that than the other one will. So I run the collapsible stock. You can kind of interchange the collapsible stock with the stipple grip. It kind of does the same thing. But I just like the collapsible stock a little bit better for this SMG than the stipple grip. I used to run stipple grip though, and it's not bad. It's definitely viable. I just like the collapsible stock a little bit better. Perks wise for SMGs, it's kind of the same as pistols. Definitely do not run the burst on any SMG other than the Vector, which I'll get to in a second. But you don't need that. You don't need fully loaded. Realistically, the melee ones, or frangible disabling is not melee, but you get the point. Like the frangible ones, you really don't want to use on an SMG. You don't want to waste the slot there. It's unnecessary when you can put other things on it. Heavy hitter, you really aren't gonna melee that much with an SMG. At least I hope you don't have to. That's the point of the SMGs, for close range fights. So if you have to melee, it's because you missed all your shots and now you need a melee or you'll die. Again, unless you're leveling it up, you don't really need more money. Mine are all maxed out. I don't need more XP. It also helps you level up, but you don't really need that. If you play the game enough, you'll get to 155 without a problem. And you unless you're leveling it up, you don't need to run the more money perk. FMJ, you're not really going to be shooting down streaks with an SMG. I don't really recommend running FMJ. You're not really going to be wall banging with an SMG again, so don't really feel like FMJ is necessary. You can still shoot through walls, which is obviously not as much damage. And you can still get a lot of kills. I still get a lot of kills through walls with an MP5. It's really not that important to run FMJ on it. Recon, you don't really need to fight people at that range that you don't even see their name. And also, you can realistically, if you have good map awareness and kind of awareness in general, you can kind of tell that they're enemies, even at range, even if they don't have a name over their head. And it's always safer than sorry. I mean, if you can't tell, just shoot. And if they don't die or they don't take damage, it's because they're on your team and then you stop. But I don't feel like an SMG you really need to run recon. Again, melee one, I don't feel like you really need it for an SMG, so I wouldn't really run it. I run 45 round mags. The 10mm 30 round mags weren't bad, but they were nerfed. These were nerfed. The gun was nerfed in general, but these were nerfed specifically so that they do less damage. They do less. They have less range and do less damage. So I like the 45 round mag more, just because you get those 15 extra bullets, and this gun is still good and it still does damage. You don't have to really worry about losing damage or anything like that, even though this does increase it a little bit, but the fire rate drops, and I prefer having a little better fire rate and more bullets personally. And now this one is a little bit interchangeable. If you want to control recoil a little better, you run the commando foregrip, no question. But I personally want a little bit more hipfire accuracy, as well as the recoil control. That's why I run the Merc, because it helps with both of those. You can run the Ranger foregrip. It technically will increase, it reduces your accuracy, but it increases your range a little more. Personally, I like the Merc foregrip better in this situation than the Ranger foregrip. I wouldn't really run the tactical foregrip. If you want aiming stability, run the commando foregrip. Same thing with the operator foregrip. If you want recoil control, run the commando foregrip. But I personally like the Merc foregrip for hip fire accuracy and for recoil control. So that's what I run on the SMG. Now, I'm going to talk about the attachments in general for weapons. So I'm going to go over the 7.25 for shotguns. I'm going to go over the M4 for ARs. However, don't run these guns. For the love of God, please don't be that much of a loser and run these weapons, okay? I run them when I have to, when people are running M4s and killing me, and then I have to throw it on. Please do. This changed, by the way, since I did my class on loadouts video. This M4 changed, and this M4 is way better than the one I had. But for the 7.25, it's a little bit different than for most. So like the muzzles for shotguns, the only really thing you're gonna run in terms of shotguns and muzzles go is the choke. That's pretty much all you will ever run on a shotgun in terms of a muzzle, which is the tighter pellet spread, or the mono suppressor if you want to increase range a little bit, which I actually run on my VOK, which is the only other shotgun I use. Realistically, you don't really need anything else on it. Like, none of this is really necessary, recoil, any of that. It's not important. You're either going to run a choke or you're going to run a mono suppressor. I recommend, if you're going to run one, it be the choke, because it increases range a little more than the mono suppressor does, but the mono suppressor keeps your accuracy a little bit better. I would still recommend the choke though. Barrels wise, each shotgun has their own barrels. I would recommend one that helps you, other than the 7.25, I would recommend on the other shotguns you run one, a barrel that increases your range a little more, which like this would for the shotgun, or even this one would help a little more than the one I have. But the sawed-off barrel on 7.25 is broken. It's supposed to reduce your range. It really doesn't. It's disgusting. The range you can do with this thing, the damage you can do at range with this thing is still ridiculous, even though it's a 7.25. And it has a sawed-off shotgun. So I personally like the sawed-off barrel because it helps with your movement speed and your ADS speed. Although I don't really ADS that much, so I like more movement speed. But you can run this one. If you're going to run another one of these barrels, I probably recommend this one, actually. Because this one has wider pellet spread, so you're more like... This is more for ADS speed. It's not as good as the sawed-off for ADS speed, but it has wider pellet spread, which means you won't hit as many. Like, if somebody's a little bit further away, the spread is wider, so you're less likely to hit all the pellets and actually get more damage. So I'd recommend the Tempest 2 competition barrel if you really want to run a bigger barrel for more range. I run the 1 megawatt. Why is it so hard for me to say that? The 1 megawatt laser for sprint to fire speed, not necessarily ADS speed. It's for sprint to fire speed. So that I can shoot quickly after I'm done running, because you're gonna need that with shotgun. If you're sprinting into a building, somebody's there, you want to shoot as quickly as possible. That's why I run that. I don't like these lasers. Again, the green lasers, I just don't like them, so I don't run them. Same thing goes with the sight. If you don't run sights on your shotguns, it just wastes a slot. Get good with the iron sights if you can, because it's gonna make it way easier for you to get more kills and have better games and stuff like that with these weapons if you don't have to waste a slot on an optic. I don't personally run a stock, but if I would recommend one, I'd say the sawed-off, because it increases ADS speed and movement speed. But you can also run the Tempest Sport one. These I really don't think you really need. You don't need aiming stability on the 7.25. It's not like a rapid fire shotgun. It's 2 shots. You don't really need aim walking movement speed. I mean, yes, strafing a little faster can help, but realistically you want to run one of these 2 down here. Shotguns, for the most part, almost exclusively, you're going to run sleight of hand, because they pretty much all reload very slowly. So you go, and especially for the 7.25, you only have 2 shots. You're going to need to reload quickly. But for most of them, you're going to want to run sleight of hand, especially because none of these really are necessary with the shotgun. You don't need more money. You don't need fully loaded. You don't need FMJ, heavy hitter, frangible, recall. You don't need any of those. If you're running a shotgun, run sleight of hand. Trust me, you're going to want to run sleight of hand. Because if you run into a building and you... First of all, don't run shotguns in Warzone. Unless it's the Origin, where you can spam it. Because shotguns in Warzone aren't very good. But in multiplayer, if you run into a building and there's 3 guys in there, and you're like jumping around, strafing around... If you're using, let's say, it's 25, right? You're going to run out of shots after 2 shots. So let's say you kill 2 guys, and that's if you're really good. You kill 2 of them with each of your shots. Now you have a 3rd guy, and you have to reload. You want sleight of hand because you have to reload, and if you don't have sleight of hand, it takes long to reload, and you won't be able to get that kill more likely than not, unless the player is really, really bad. So if you're running a shotgun, I highly, highly recommend, if you're going to choose a perk out of here, it's definitely got to be sleight of hand, which is what I have on. I run the Slim Grip, which is basically the same thing as the Stipple Grip Tape, but it's for shotguns. It's for ADS speed, sprint to fire speed. You're going to want to run that. These aren't necessary. You don't need recoil control. You don't need aim and stability on any shotgun other than the Origin. But I really don't feel like you need to put anything for that either on the Origin. personally. Ammunition, you can run slug rounds. It helps you, like, it makes it basically turn into a sniper, but it's a lot harder to get hits. You need to be a lot more accurate. That's the way to say it. You need to be a lot more accurate with this gun if you run slug rounds, because if you're up close to somebody and you aren't perfectly accurate, you don't get that leeway of being just a little bit off to the right and still getting the kill, because the pellets still hit, because it has such a small damage radius that you won't be able to really get those like slightly off shots to get kills. It's just gonna be a miss and you're gonna die. So unless you're really, really accurate, I wouldn't recommend running slug rounds. Or if you want to troll, which I have, and you throw it on and you make it like a sniper, you can do that too. This Merc foregrip is for ADS speed and recoil control. You don't really have that much recoil, but in reality, none of these are really necessary. These are recoil, aiming stability, recoil, aiming stability, recoil. You don't need those. I run this for ADS speed, so that if I do ADS, I can ADS super fast. That's why I run this this grip. And I would recommend for most shotguns. They mostly change. If you're going to run a grip, though, I would recommend the one that helps for ADS speed. In this case, it's the Merc foregrip. Now, ARs. This is where you have the biggest variety, right? This is where you can have many different attachments for many different ARs, and it also depends on the AR and how you want to play. I personally like an AR that can kind of ADS decently fast. I don't want it to be super slow, but also can do damage at range, because most of the times when I run an AR, I'm using an AR that I'm using something in well, not really, but I mean, I want it to ADS decently fast, but also when you're running an AR, I'm not running anything else usually. So I want to be able to hit those fights at long range, but ADS just quick enough that I can get kills at close range too, right? But realistically, when you run an AR, unless you're running it as an SMG, you want to keep the fights medium to long range. You really don't want those close range encounters where you kind of have to hit fire or get a really quick snap on someone's head if you don't have really good ADS speed. So I run the mono suppressor, and you're just gonna run this on a lot of ARs. Pretty much this is the best attachment in the game. The mono suppressor, maybe there with the stipple grip might be the other one, but the mono suppressor is the best attachment in the game. It increases sound suppression, which isn't really important, but it increases damage range, and that's very important. I run the Grenadier barrel. I change this. I used to run the Marksman barrel. Marksman's better for medium and close range fights. The Grenadier is better for long range fights and medium and like a little further than medium fights, right? I personally like the Grenadier better, but you can run either one of these two. You're not gonna really want to run these. I've seen people run the TAC Light. It's just for ADS speed. You're basically turning this into an SMG, which is not its strength. It can be a decent SMG, but realistically, if you're running an M4, use it like an AR. But please don't run the M4. And then like this one is for ADS speed as well, and this one same thing. Don't worry about those. You're either gonna run the Grenadier or you're gonna run the Corvus Custom Marksman. I personally recommend the Grenadier for the M4. Laser. I don't run a laser. Some people run attack laser on it for ADS speed. I don't like those lasers, and I don't feel like a 1 megawatt laser is necessary, because I don't want to waste an attachment slot on that when the times that I hit fire with this is very, very, very small. So I don't need that. I don't need to do that. Again, with the optic, like I said before, if you can get good with an iron sight, then use it. The M4 regular iron sights on the M4, the regular, because this is not the regular. This iron sight that you see on it is not the regular iron sight. The regular iron sight for the M4, I suck with it, and I hate it. So I always used to run a GI Mini Reflex on the iron sights. But then I saw the iron sights of this gun, the anime one, and I had to buy it because it's the only iron sight that I can actually use on the M4, and I'm actually not bad with it. And I've gotten a lot better with it by using it. So if you can get good with an iron sight, please do, because again, it gives you the ability to put an extra attachment you don't have to waste on a sight. I know I've said it a lot, but I just, if you want to get good at the game, that's a really good way of that's a thing you need to know, basically. I run the ADS speed stock. I didn't used to run a stock. I would run either the M16 stock for aiming stability, because I wanted it to be less recoil, but this thing doesn't really have that much recoil, right? This got super nerfed. No stock used to be the way to run it. It got super nerfed. It increased your recoil is crazy when you run this. It's just not as good anymore. So I run this one, which increases your ADS speed and makes this gun ADS way faster. Again, stipple grip. I'm telling you, if you're gonna run a grip tape, it's gonna be the stipple grip. These not really used. Perk wise, you could run FMJ with an AR. It's definitely something you can run with it, because you can shoot down streaks and you can wallbang people with an AR. So you can run that. You can run sleight of hand as well. Those are the two I would probably recommend. The burst on this is garbage. Don't touch it. It's awful. You don't really need fully loaded. You don't really need any of these other perks. Realistically, it would be sleight of hand or FMJ. That's what you're gonna want to run. Ammunition, if you're playing Warzone, you run the 60 round mag. If I was playing Warzone, I'd probably take the the stock off and throw on the 60 round mag, and that would be the AM4 that I would use in Warzone. But I don't run this in Warzone. But if you are gonna run it in Warzone, do run the 60 round mag. Definitely need it. In terms of the other ones, you can run these 50 or 60 round mag in multiplayer. I did it for a while, but I don't feel like it's really necessary. 30 bullets is plenty enough to get kills. You don't really, I mean, it can 2 or 3 shot people. Like, you don't really need that many bullets. But in Warzone, you definitely do. The 32 round 9mm ammo, I don't feel like you really want to run this. It reduces your damage and your range. It does increase fire rate, but I don't really see anyone running it, and I don't run it. It's not something that is really that good. It kind of turns it into an SMG again, which that's not what you want to run an M4 for. If you're going to run an SMG and you want to sweat, you run an MP5. The SOCOM rounds, these you mostly use as a troll. Like if you want to troll or meme, you run this. This is more just like, it turns it basically into like a semi-auto sniper where you want to just pop shots. You don't want to hold it down because you're going to waste every single bullet you have because it only has 10 rounds per magazine. And in Warzone, you would never run this. There's no way you can get away with running 10 round mags. You'd have to be super accurate to be able to kill one person, let alone be able to kill a whole squad with this magazine. And for the foregrip, this was one that I kind of fought with because I didn't know what to run necessarily that was the best for this one. But I ended up with the Commando foregrip, and it's the best one to run. It's the best foregrip to run. If you're gonna run a foregrip on an AR, I highly recommend you run the Commando foregrip. You can run the Merc, but I don't feel like hip fire accuracy is that important. If you need any kind of aiming stability, the Commando foregrip is the way to go. So that kind of negates the other ones. I would 100% recommend running the Commando foregrip. It's a must-have on any AR you want to run. In my opinion, if you want it to be good, especially with the M4, it doesn't move. It really doesn't. There's no recoil to it. But please don't run this. Please. Don't run an M4. Alright, on to the next one. LMG. LMGs are different. This one's a little different than most LMGs. Most LMGs you want to put stuff that make it ADS quicker and makes you move faster. The Bruin, not so much. The Bruin, you want to do, you want to increase a little more the damage and the range, and then obviously have a couple things that can help with the ADS speed. So I have, again, mono suppressor, best one in the game. Barrel, I run the one that increases damage range and bullet velocity. You can run like this one maybe that helps the ADS speed a little bit more than this one does, but I'd recommend the Summit barrel. For LMGs, it kind of depends on the LMG. Realistically, you're only going to run the PKM and the Bruin, and for both, you're going to run the barrel that increases damage range. You're not going to run anything other than that. Lasers, you can run the TAC laser. I don't like those lasers, so I don't run it. My ADS speed comes from the skeleton stock. Again, no stock got nerfed, so I'm not using no stock on any classes anymore. You can use the close quarters, but I feel like this one helps a little bit more mobility than the close quarter stock does, so I run that one. There's the ultralight, and then there's the 4-stack stalker. If you want a aiming stability, this one, but this gun doesn't have much recoil. Neither does the PKM, so I'd recommend the skeleton stock. PKM I used to run no stock, but again, when it got nerfed, I changed my PKM to the ADSing. I forget which one it is on the PKM, but the ADSing barrel. I do run a reflex sight on the Bruin. I just don't like the iron sights. It blocks too much of the screen. Like you can see right here next to that little circle, those two that U-shaped thing around it, it blocks too much of my screen, and I don't like it. I can't see, because when I'm ADS a lot, if I'm ADS at something, I'm always looking around my sight to see, you know, if there's people peeking from other areas. When you ADS with that one, you really can't see crap out of around your sight. So I don't like the iron sight at all. So I run the mini reflex. But the gun is still nasty with the reflex on it. I wish I could be good with the iron sight, because if I could be good with the iron sight, I could put on stipple grip and it would ADS even faster. But I freaking suck with the iron sights, man. And I don't like how they block your screen. If you're gonna run a grip tape, stipple grip. That's the one you go with. This is kind of the same as the ARs. You're gonna run FMJ or sleight of hand. Most likely sleight of hand on an SMG. I mean on an LMG, because they reload slowly, especially like the PKM. The Bruin, you don't have to worry about that, because if you put the 60 round mag, it doesn't reload slowly. But you're gonna run one of these, FMJ sleight of hand for sure. That's what you're gonna run. Again, I recommend on the Bruin you run the 60 round mag, even in Warzone. It increases everything: ADS speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and 60 rounds is more than enough. And it's nasty. This right now is the best gun in Warzone. It's what I run in Warzone. It's the best gun in Warzone. And if you want to get wins, that's what you run. But even in multiplayer, it's really good. You melt people with this thing, and it's one of the best attachments for this. It's the best attachment for this gun. Yes, it comes with a 200 round belt. Like, you can put that on. You don't need 200 bullets, and it makes the ADS speed go way down, and your movement speed goes way down. Your reload speed goes way up. You don't need that. 60 round mag is the way to go on this one. Trust me. Underbarrel, if you're gonna put one on it, it's gonna be the Commando foregrip. I don't have one on it. It doesn't have recoil. You don't need one. But if you want one, I would say the Commando foregrip would be the way to go. Pretty much like on any other gun. The VOK Rogue, like I said, I do have the Forge Tech Marauder, which is basically like a monolithic suppressor, just a little bit better version than the mono suppressor. It increases the range a little bit more. But as you can see, everything else is pretty much the same. Sleight of hand, simple grip. I do have the Dragon Breath rounds on, and the tack laser because I want it to ADS a little bit. This one I do ADS with, so I do want it to ADS that much quicker, which is why I have Dragon Breath rounds on. These are the hipfire classes, so you can see that I have the 5 megawatt laser. For the Vector, you're going to need two things that are going to make this gun go from not that great when you first get it to really good. The ZLR 18-inch deadfall barrel, which increases damage range a lot, helps your recoil control and bullet velocity. You're going to run that. You can also run the monolithic suppressor, or the ZLR Saber is not bad to run either. I personally like the 18-inch deadfall better. You can run both too if you really want. I wouldn't, or not both, but you can run like the Apex barrel and then like another barrel, another mono suppressor or something like that to increase the range even more. You don't really need it, in my opinion. You don't. If you want to go for range with this gun, then what you need is the hollow point rounds. It only gives 12 bullets, but man, does this thing do damage. It does. It increases your damage, and it really does. It really does work, but you gotta be accurate. But the other thing you need, it definitely is the 40 round drum mags. This thing's fire rate is insane and goes through bullets very quickly, and the 25 you start out with are not enough. You definitely need the 40 round drum mags, especially if you're gonna do hip fire like I did. You're definitely gonna need it. I run the Merc foregrip because I'm doing hip fire class, same thing with the regular megawatt laser, 5 megawatt laser, and then sleight of hand pretty much is a thing that you kind of run on a lot of SMGs because you want to reload quickly. Except for the MP5, I run it on all the other ones that I pretty much have. Same thing goes with the MP7. If you're gonna hip fire with the MP7, the one thing I will say is 6 round or 50 round mags. Don't use the basic one. Use one of the two that you have there. It'll make it that much better. This is the 1AR. That's different. Well, not the one, but this is the one that I'm gonna go into a little more detail with, for one reason only. When you first unlock this AR, it is ass. It has a lot of recoil, the range is really bad, and it just doesn't feel like a good gun. The attachment you need is this one right here. The XRK Zodiac S440 barrel. This thing changes this gun completely. It increases the damage range and the bullet velocity, but the recoil control is crazy. It basically goes from having a crap ton of recoil to barely any, and it's very controllable. The class I run is super good. I love this class. This is my go-to AR. I don't run M4s. This is my go-to AR. And it ADSs very quickly because I run the ADS speed barrel, and I run the stipple grip. It's called the stipple wrap, but it's the same thing. Stipple grip, and then of course the Commando foregrip to help just that much more with the recoil. This thing is nasty. I love running it. It can kill people at super far range. It can kill people at super close range. It ADSs quickly, so if you have to get in a quick fight, it's almost like an SMG. This gun is nasty, and I would recommend that if you want to run an AR that's not the M4, there's a few recommendations for that. If you want to run an AR that's not an M4 or a Grau, because a lot of people use the Grau too, run this class. Run the Jalil or the AMAX, the CR56 AMAX. The Kilo is pretty good too, and the M13. Those are the three that I would recommend if you want to run something other than an M4 or a Grau as an AR. That's what I would run because it's just that good. As you can see in Warzone, I run the Bruin class because it's just that good, and an MP5. My MP5 class for Warzone is a little bit different just because I have sleight of hand in case you're fighting multiple people. So I took the barrel off, threw on sleight of hand, took off the laser, throw on the stipple grip for a little more speed. That's basically why I run this class, and it melts. It does. You get kills in Warzone. You'll see videos that are coming up where I get kills with my MP5 and stuff. You'll see that it melts. But yeah, those are like all the attachments. What I would recommend on each gun. It depends on your style of play. If you want an AR that ADS is a little slower, but you can sit at range and pick people off. You want to put stuff for recoil, like the Commando foregrip, like the M16 on the M4 anyway. The M16 stock that runs. Increases the aiming stability, but if you want a little more ADS speed but still a little bit better recoil control, run the class that I showed you, or something similar to it where you have multiple attachments to help with the range, but also ADS speed, but also recoil control, because this M4 is nasty. I don't like running it, but I'm not gonna lie and say it's not nasty. It is. So those are the attachments. I went through pretty much all of them. Obviously, each gun has their own unique attachments, some of them, but they're pretty much the same premise. It's a barrel that increases the ADS. There'll be a barrel that decreases it, and there'll be a barrel that decreases it a little bit less, but it's still, but it also increases range a little less. Like they're all basically the same thing. You just have different names. So that's what I would recommend running on your stuff. Hopefully that helped. If you see anything that I said or recommended that you don't agree with, just let me know why you don't agree with me in the comments, and let me know what you would do instead. What attachment you would run in place of the one that I said that you wouldn't run. Because I'm legitimately curious. Like, I want to learn and get better at the game too. Hopefully this helps you guys learn and get better a little bit as well, on what attachments to run on what guns. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Check out the social medias: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, The Real Ace Plays. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.